The Washington University and St. Louis Common App essays. Let's talk about them. The WashU supplement isn't too complicated, fortunately. In fact, the school requires one essay of 200 words or fewer on a common topic. Why major? Just like with any why major essay, it's important to explain how you became interested in the subject, how you furthered your knowledge inside and outside the classroom, and what you hope to do with it. Of course, if you have some space left over, you can add a bit and share why you want to study this at WashU specifically as a nice way to cap off the essay. Let's try an example. If you're interested in math, you could talk about how that interest arose, even from something fun, like playing Sudoku as a kid, or using statistics to analyze sports games. With this part established, you can move into what you've learned that's really sparked your interest. Perhaps taking AP statistics introduced methods of analysis you hope to apply in solving social problems. Maybe attending math league competitions introduced the collaborative nature of solving math problems that you hope to experience in your career. Which, of course, brings us to goals. What kind of career do you envision undertaking and why? Do you hope to become an actuary? What about working in finance? Why? Talk a bit about that here. And, if possible, talk a bit about any courses, professors, clubs, or research opportunities pertaining to WashU's famed math program. But no worries if you can't get there in this essay. 200 words is pretty tight, so it's most important to ensure that you fleshed out your reasons for pursuing the major itself. If you find yourself short on space, then try to rank all the reasons and experiences you want to mention, and try to hit those first and foremost. Next is an optional essay, also of 200 words or fewer. But remember that just like with any optional essay, you should probably write it. After all, it's another spot for you to include information to help you stand out among the competition. Now, this prompt presents two choices for us to consider. The first is in the vein of a community essay, while the second is an open-ended identity essay. As always when facing a choice, you want to consider which option will allow you to present a more compelling essay. Which essay do you think would help you stand out more? For some of you, this may be obvious based off of your activity lists or experiences, but maybe it's a bit tough to choose. In this case, I'd encourage you to briefly outline answers to both and see if that sheds any light. Sharing what you've written with a friend or family member is a great way to get a second opinion. Alright, so let's take a look at both. First off, we have the community essay. What factors form a community? Well, those factors can include culture, nationality, race, gender, interest, geographic location, educational background, and others. This question is your chance to pick one of those communities and talk about how you've made a difference within it. I think your extracurricular list is a great place to start, as this is a chance to mention any volunteering you may have done, like for National Honor Society, for Cultural Affinity Group, or to tutor your classmates. Of course, if you cite a school activity, then choose one that matters most to you, such as one in which you've undertaken a leadership role, not necessarily the activity that sounds the most impressive. It's important for us to highlight your specific impact, and if you had greater impact in a lesser known group, that's okay. Same thing applies if you're citing a community you're part of but didn't mention on your activity list, such as something involving family obligations. What matters most is action. Detail the actions you've taken to serve your community. So say you volunteer at a religious institution. You can discuss how many years you've been at that organization and how your role has evolved as you've progressed. Maybe you began by mentoring younger members, and your role grew to the point where you were serving the larger community, such as by running a food bank. Ultimately, showcasing change through action is critical for this essay, as that's how the admissions committee will know you're capable of bringing similar change to WashU. Now, the other choice we're looking at is a bit more broad. When talking about your story, you could cite any experiences or challenges you believe to be critical in shaping who you are. Remember, we already have the Common App personal statement, so we don't want to share anything mentioned there. So, what kinds of experiences or challenges are worth mentioning? Well, like with any story, tension is important. In other words, the stakes must be high. For instance, an experience of flunking an exam is not going to impact your life in the same way that another experience, say, dealing with a lifelong learning disability like dyslexia, would. Think about the seminal moments in your life. This could once again include your activity list, but could also go beyond school. Consider, for example, listing all the years from your birth until now, and marking any significant events across those years. Maybe you see a pattern in your growth as you undertake bigger and bigger challenges and experiences. That's a great foundation for this essay. The key is that since we only have 200 words, you have to focus on the biggest. That is, you probably won't have space to mention 3 experiences, though 1 will be sufficient if you believe it to be significant enough. If the listing exercise doesn't help, then don't be afraid to talk to close friends or family to get their opinions on events they feel have shaped you. And there you have it. WashU may not give a lot of space in these essays, but that's okay. Quality over quantity is the rule here. And as always, by writing memorable essays, you're giving yourself the edge you need to stand out among the competition. You got this.